This lesson is going to be about vibrato. Vibrato is something that should be used as an embellishment, and I think as guitar players, we often overuse it, and we sort of use it just because we can, just because we can go like, or that doesn't mean that every note should sound like that. That doesn't really sound very human. The human voice doesn't really, when it talks or even sings. So, from this point of view, we should be using vibrato as an embellishment, a way to make certain notes stand out in a particular line or melody. And there's a lot of ways we can do this. I sort of break it down into two sort of types of vibrato. We have the creamy vibrato, which sort of sounds like this. And then we have the sort of twitchy, very emotional, sporadic sort of vibrato that goes like, right? Now, we can use these two types of vibrato over lines or melodies in a variety of different ways. So you can, for instance, what you could do is you could have the vibrato going the whole duration of the note you want to play, right? But that doesn't sound very great because it doesn't allow for dynamic types of vibrato. And what I mean by that is you don't have to hold the vibrato the same with the same intensity the whole duration. For example, you can increase it as the note goes on. So you can start with no vibrato, and then as time goes by, you can add more. And this gives it a really emotional type quality. So the first module will be one where we do that with the creamy sort of vibrato. It goes like this. And that's very emotional. But we can do that with the sort of twitchy vibrato too. We can go like this. And that's cool too. And we can we don't have to end the notes with the vibrato. We could start it like and gradually let it sit, or the other way. Or we could put it in between, right? We can go or. Now, the techniques in which we get these are pretty distinct. So the creamy sort of vibrato, what I'm doing is I'm using the finger that I have fretted as a pivot point and sort of moving it sideways, pulling it down, up and down, like that, and moving the whole neck of the guitar really with it. So like if I were just to leave my other hand here, the whole guitar moves as I go like this. I'm sort of using the guitar to move the note, rather than bending the note like that and keeping the guitar still. I'm allowing the guitar to bend the note itself, in a sense. I'm just keeping that there and I'm moving the guitar with it. That gives it really a creamy feel. And this takes a while. One of the most important lessons of vibrato is listening to yourself, right? You have to get the sound that you want, and there's no right way to do it. But if you can master the techniques of listening, constantly listening and adjusting minute differences, because vibrato is very minute. It's very much a left hand, very fine motor skill. You have to really just listen to yourself and be able to make slight adjustments. And this takes a lot of time because there's a strength that you have to build. And basically how you build the strength is just practice hitting single notes, right? So if you want to practice vibrato, you don't necessarily, or by its own, you don't necessarily need to go up a scale to get to it. I mean, you can, but if you want to solely practice the motor technique of it, you can very much isolate it with a single note. Or, it's different on different strings, so maybe you want to practice just across one fret, all strings, because they're all different. For example, the low E string, it's hard to bend it up, right, because you get that, or vice versa on the F. This is an F, right? All fourths tuning. So if you haven't watched my other lesson, I cover that. Vibrato. And the other technique would be the sort of sporadic. And this I get sort of from the blues. It has Derek Trucks. Is that his name? I think so. Maybe. If it's not, then my bad. But he gets this sort of this shaky tone when he slides, but I like to sort of emulate it with my hand, and B.B. King can do it very well too. He doesn't do it as fast though, and it's sort of like trembling, It gives this sort of connotation of like pain. It's very bluesy because it actually feels like you're trembling, like how it feels to feel so much pain and just let it go, right? And the technique I use for it is if this is your hand, right, I sort of just make it like twitch like that. And it's the same motion as the creamy one, right, where you just you anchor on the fret and you move it sort of this way, right? But instead of doing it slowly and sort of gracefully, you just let your hand sort of twitch and you get this. And it takes a while. You just sort of have to let go, really. I'm not focusing on what every motion should feel like. I'm just shaking, and when you're literally trembling, it definitely gives that emotional, painful quality to it. It's very expressive. So that's the other type. In terms of context, I like to think of vibrato, like I said, as an embellishment. So you have these two ways that you can use vibrato that I've shown. And what you don't want to do is do this. I mean, you can, there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't sound as human, right? Because it should be an embellishment. It should be a once in a blue moon thing. It gives it more power. It's sort of a restraint element that we as guitar players have to deal with, right? So, for example, you could use it just at the end of phrases, but that could get boring too. There's guitar players that play like this. Where the end of every note is always vibratoed in a creamy sort of texture. And that can get boring too because that's not how we speak, We don't always have to end our phrases with such, creaminess. So what we should try to use it as is a sort of marker of what the most dramatic note in a phrase might be. And that can be at the beginning, middle, or end. It really depends on the context, but we should really try to use it as an embellishment. For example, a line like this. use it as an embellishment. And I'm not the greatest at it. The blues guitarists have it down the best because they found a way to use it emotionally. Not the shredders in this case, in which they just use it at the end or the beginning, right? Blues is a great way to learn about this, simply because you have fewer notes and you get to focus on what bending does, right? Because you have quarter tones and all that. But I think that's gonna do it for the vibrato lesson. It's hard to say. I keep fucking it up, but yeah, that's it. This is lesson number 2. Thanks. Oh, and on this one, I think I'm gonna put some or a link or two in the description of another video that you could watch that pertains to this, like of another teacher, another YouTube link. It's gonna be YouTube because I mean, if you can watch this, you have access to YouTube. I wouldn't want it to be something else. And I'll end it there.